There's another Rolling Stone article, but like here, I mean, this is another one where it's like one woman who went on a Tinder date. When Charlotte was 18, she matched with a then 19-year-old man named Andrew Callaghan on Tinder. The now 24-year-old who requested a pseudonym to protect her privacy was familiar with Callaghan as they had attended neighboring high schools in the Seattle area. He would become, the well-known person. The view I had of him was like, haha, look at this dude, she tells Rolling Stone. But in 2016, she agreed to go out for coffee with him, with the two returning to the apartment he was staying at. She says to drink wine and watch a movie. What happens next, she says, was an abrupt shift of tone in the evening. Charlotte claims Callaghan kissed her, then poured wine on her chest and licked it off. They were acts she said she consented to, even though she was somewhat uncomfortable. It wasn't until Callaghan grew more persistent, Charlotte started saying no. It wasn't taking a simple no for an answer, and consequently it turned into me making up an array of excuses. Kept insisting that I needed to get him off because I was giving him blue balls by not having sex with him. Eventually, Charlotte says Callaghan got the message. The two never spoke again, but she says she left the incident left her feeling violated, confused, and incredibly disrespected. So here's the thing, okay? This right here, first of all, blue balls is not a myth. I don't know why but blue balls in a coercive act like this is, inappropriate, unacceptable. Blue balls are not bull. Oh my God, I hate when dumb say this. Like, no, it is literally a real thing, okay? Something can be real, okay, and painful even, and also simultaneously be unacceptable to bring up in a circumstance like this. Why do people try to tell that this is not real? Like, it's just not her problem. Not everyone gets them. That's why. Wait, really? I don't understand why people just act like it's just like not a real thing though. But it goes back to, you shouldn't have to convince them. You shouldn't have to convince someone. No matter what happens, you should not have to convince someone you. Okay? Obviously, there's a lot of societal expectations and a lot of, like, even in the most charitable circumstance, there's a lot of social conditioning that makes you think like, oh, well, maybe there are other factors. But ultimately, you should be respectful and don't pursue. Luckily, this did not go any further. And it seems like this is a pretty consistent thing that Andrew has done, okay? For a lot of you in the chat, if you have, up until this very moment, considered this to be a normal part of the process, and like, oh, it's just like kind of weird, whatever, why would you call that assault? You're being crazy, all this shit. Okay, listen to me. Just don't do this in the future, okay? Please, just don't do it. Don't do it in the future, because it very clearly is something that the other side does not appreciate, okay? That's it. Learn from this right now. You're not famous. Even if you have done something that is similar to this, that you think is similar to this, but you got no like repercussions for it, okay? I'm telling you right now. One, apologize to the person if you have something like this that you can think of. And two, don't ever do this again. Oh yeah, the two never spoke again. For the next few years, Charlotte watched with growing discomfort as Callaghan's platform grew, first with All Gas No Breaks, in which he traveled across the country in an RV interviewing various eccentric subcultural groups, then with his follow-up channel, Channel 5, which garnered more than 2.2 million subscribers. Over the years, Charlotte privately told people who shared Callaghan's content on social media about the encounter, messaging one friend in 2019, and Callaghan tried to make me do things that I didn't want to do, and another in 2020 that Callaghan was really inappropriate with me, according to the screen grabs and screen records viewed by Rolling Stone. Charlotte's ex-boyfriend, whom she told about the encounter, tells Rolling Stone that Charlotte told him Callaghan was kind of aggressive. This is not okay because it leaves people feeling insecure and uncomfortable, okay? And it can lead to additional acts that you do that is way more serious and a crime on top of that, okay? Like, you might not be able to prosecute in this circumstance, okay, depending on, the victim might not even want to prosecute in this circumstance, right? But like, if you're doing this all the time, there are going to be moments where you are doing something that is like going above and beyond. So I'm telling you, okay, you're doing this kind of thing, don't do it, especially first and foremost and primarily because you care about potentially the victim. Okay, you don't want to hurt someone like this. And if you can't consider the other person, you don't have empathy, do it for self-preservation. Okay? That's it. That's what I'm saying. It's disturbing that this is difficult. No, it's not disturbing that this is difficult because human beings are unique. You know what I mean? What do you mean? Have you ever interacted with another human? Like, we're not even talking about consent at this point. We're talking about just like genuine interaction. How many times do you have a conversation with a random stranger where you're like, oh, probably came across awful when you didn't even come across awful, okay? Go outside, you dumb mother. Actually, maybe it's better that you don't, okay? And we can't even have a normal conversation surrounding this because people will go on the opposing side of the argument and immediately be like, dude, it's so simple. Shut the. You're an idiot. Like, what? just read the other person, lol, okay? When plenty of people can't, okay? They're just not good at it. And they don't even recognize that they're not good at it, maybe. Or on the other end, you're like, well, dude, what am I going to ask for consent for everything? No. And you, this is just pestering. It's totally normal. It's totally fine. I've gotten so much doing this. Well, then, okay, well, you're probably leaving a lot of people behind that are traumatized by your actions. And you have to genuinely reconsider the way the way you interact with people. Give him a ride home. I told him to stop. I told him to get off multiple times. She says in the video, fighting against him during this, telling him to please stop. Eventually, she says Callaghan left the car. This was the one that was like pretty open and shut. Okay, like pretty obvious, multiple no's, and also the pestering continuing into like physically pursuing the person. Like it's just pretty obvious. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Caroline says she initially met Callaghan at the Ben's Dive Bar. She approached Callaghan, who was with a woman who appeared to be his girlfriend, as a fan of his content. A few months later, they agreed to meet up when Callaghan was in Miami. Instagram DM screen grabs of Caroline later posted on TikTok along with a photo of her posing with Callaghan. Callaghan appeared to be in distress, telling her he had a falling out with a crew member. Caroline says that because she met Callaghan while he was with another woman, she did not initially think the meeting was romantic. When they met up again at the same bar a few months later, however, the vibe shifted. He was buying me drinks and trying to impress me, she says. People who wouldn't have talked to me at the bar were kissing my ass. At the bar, she says, Callaghan tried to kiss her, and she politely turned him down. When they got back to her place, Callaghan became persistent, allegedly badgering her for sex. He was very pushy and not taking no for an answer. I was like, no, I'm not feeling it. Eventually, she relented and, she says, was coerced into very relax. He wakes up at 4 a.m. in a full-blown panic attack. She kicked Callaghan out of her apartment a few hours later. For the next few months, she says she blamed herself for the encounter and felt guilty for inviting him over. I internalized a lot of the disgust and anger at the situation. A friend of Caroline's, who asked not to be named, told Rolling Stone that Caroline had shared details of the encounter with her shortly after. In the spring of 2021, the friend posted about Callaghan on Instagram, accusing him of assault and urging people to unfollow him. The Instagram story was intended as a warning to other women in the area, she tells Rolling Stone, though she did not name Caroline directly. Caroline's boyfriend also confirmed that she had told him about Callaghan in the spring of 2021, a few months after that night in her home. It's been a very painful week for us, he said, adding that he and Werheim have no professional relationship with Andrew at this time, with no plans of going forward with any relationship with him. We believe that these women who came forward and, of course, totally condemn the type of behavior that Andrew's being accused of. This is a conversation. This is a question that comes to mind all the time. What the f is up with YouTubers and assault? There has to be some Venn diagram with gaining clout and sexual aggression. You, my friend, unfortunately do not understand that this is not just commonplace in YouTube or TikTok or Twitch or Hollywood. It's commonplace everywhere, okay? The only difference is that when it happens in a dive bar to your friend who's a CPA, she just sits back and holds it in and internalizes that for the rest of her life. It happens all the time. But because it happens all the time, I think like people need to be more honest about it. And I think that people aren't very honest about it, partially because they don't have experiences, don't have any interpersonal relationships, so they don't understand like that it can be sometimes complicated, okay? But also partially because people don't want to like admit that this is social conditioning that guides men and women to behave in certain ways with societal expectations that we place upon them, and the way to fix that is the way to start fixing that is by being more honest about it. Because like I care more about the side, as always, of the perpetrators, and statistically speaking, it's men. I also am a man myself, right? So like I can only speak to that side of the equation. And that's the reason why I talk about it in the way that I talk about it. It might even come across sometimes as like too empathetic to men in this circumstance. Okay? You understand? But the reality is that like the reason why I do it in the way that I do it is specifically so that I can reach out to young men ahead of time so they curb back on this kind of behavior. If a regular person does the same thing, you're not going to hear about it. No one's going to report it, even though victims speak up. That's why we only hear YouTube and people in positions of power. Yeah. This kind of shit is also is terrifying because like you could be a well-intentioned person and not even realize that you're like crossing people's boundaries, because like your expectation as a man, and I can say this as a man myself, is not that like, especially when you're younger, is not that like every woman has like had an experience like this and they're behaving a certain way that like is basically an act of self-preservation. Like you don't think that. Guys don't think that, okay? No one even comprehends that. This is something that you have to recognize and learn and appreciate when your women friends are honest about it to you, okay? When they open up to you and they tell you about their experiences with other people. I mean, that's it.